Thank you, Saulius. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, depending from where you connect. First of all, Saulius, thanks for this opportunity to EuroGeographics having this webinar. That's our first one. There will be a second one on Galileo. We will see that in a while. So today we would like to take you and lead you through what you can do with EGNOS and how EGNOS can help solving your challenges. We don't want to talk very long about GSA, just very briefly to set a bit the scene for those who don't know us yet. So we are an agency that is under our European mothership, the European Commission, and we are helping the European Commission to do several things. That's market development, that's our department, but also security. We have security monitoring operations, and then we are also in charge of the two programs, EGNOS and Galileo, and make sure that we are providing the services as you need. On the other hand, we have the European Space Agency, equally important, that is basically also by delegation assisting the European Commission. Who are we and where are we? We are a pretty colorful bunch of people, around 160 staff. Colorful because we cover 21 different nationalities. I think by now it should be 22 even. And we are based in Prague. So Prague is our headquarters. We do have some other subsidiaries, but the main actions happen here in Prague, from where we are broadcasting right now as well. I will pass with this to Alina, that will further show you through what we are managing and how we are managing it, and also how you can profit from some of our funding opportunities.
Good morning, everybody, also from my side. My name is A.Hriscu, and I work for GSA Market Development Department. I will continue with the rest of the slides from GSA part. First of all, EGNOS, the topic of today's webinar. EGNOS is already available and it's already serving the citizens and European industry. This is a brief overview of the services. Open service, submitter accuracy for free, maybe the most important. I will now walk you through the details because this will be later presented by our colleagues from the European Satellite Service Provider, ESSP. As already mentioned by Reinhard earlier, GSA is also in charge of Galileo. You might have heard about it multiple times. Most important for the audience today, open service, double frequency with navigation message authentication. Maybe also the high accuracy service, freely accessible high accuracy positioning service coming later on. There will be a dedicated webinar. We are at the last steps of defining the time, and you can also join that for all the 360 degrees vision on Galileo for mapping and surveying in particular. A bit more about our activities. So GSA has the motto that we link the space with the user needs. This is very important because a European GNSS is the only civilian GNSS worldwide. And as one of our mandates is to be in close touch with the users and collect user requirements, and we do that in several ways. One of the new initiatives is the user consultation platform, where the interactions where users and representatives of the user communities gather together with us, and we discuss the needs and how the program and the services of EGNSS can better answer what the users really need. So we make the connection with the program, and we make sure that the users from all the different communities get what they really need, and not what some politicians sitting in an office, closed, disconnected, they think, but get services that really answer to concrete real life circumstances. Important user requirements document for mapping and surveying is about to be published, and the next date important is Marseille in December 2018, when the next user consultation platform will be held. important documents that are of good use, practical oriented, are the GNSS market report and the GNSS technology report. These are publications where we monitor the global market of GNSS in all the different geographical areas, covering all the applications, and the technology is kind of the guidebook of the equipment and the usage of it in application in practice. The next technology report is coming later this year. Stay tuned, free of charge and downloadable from our website. As mentioned, a few words about the funding mechanism. We have some money to give to the industry and to the different stakeholders out there. The two main funding tools, Horizon 2020, you maybe are quite familiar with it, focused on developing applications and end-to-end products. The second funding tool is Fundamental Elements. This is focused on developing receivers, antennas, and hands-on equipment. If you wonder whether you're eligible for funding, yes, you are. So maybe of interest for you is the next call that will be open in October 2018. We are, as you could see from the different topics, we are encouraging many different topics, so the connected participants could identify fitting applications that they are ready to develop. We are very much willing to receive good applications from you. You have enough time to prepare offers until 5th of March, and for any further details, please contact the links, and also us. We're available to answer questions. As a part of GSA in concrete relation with the mapping and surveying communities, we are also sponsoring a dedicated prize into the CLGE Young Surveyors competition or prize. The 2018 is open, and our special prize is focused on Galileo, EGNOS, and Copernicus applications, and new ideas from young people are welcome that ideally could use all the three systems or two, and so on. So we invite the young professionals and the students to submit such applications, and you can get this information further on at our website. We are just to give you the flavor and to hand over for the rest of the webinar. Let us say again, we already mentioned that one leg of GSA activities is operations and service provision and the market development of Galileo. That will be a next webinar in the future. Today we talk about EGNOS, and therefore, we will hand over to ESSP, who will go with you through all the rest of the applications of EGNOS for mapping and surveying.
So, hello, my name is S.Cilla. Right now. Here we are. So once again, good morning, everybody. My name is S.Cilla, and as Reinhard and Alina have explained, I work for ESSP. That's the company, the European Satellite Services Provider, that is currently, as they were explaining, the EGNOS service provided. So in the remaining 30 minutes I will try to provide you a glimpse of what is EGNOS in brief, and which are the applications where you can use this free European service for mapping and GIS. In this slide you have the bullets I will try to go through, basically providing a very brief view on the EGNOS basics, the architecture and the technical parameters. What are the benefits you can expect for using EGNOS in mapping and GIS? What devices, trying to be practical, EGNOS fine, but how can I use it? With which devices can I use it? And the applications and success stories we have so far found some data to share with us and provide you also basic information about the EGNOS user support website, where there's a lot of information and where you can contact us to obtain further support. And once I finish, I guess it's when the turn for making or answering your questions, both for the presentation provided by ESA and the one I'm going to show to you. So here we go. EGNOS background. Basically, what is EGNOS? There's an acronym there, and EGNOS means European Geostationary Navigation Overlay Service. This means that it's a free satellite-based augmentation provided by a geostationary satellite, that's the reason of the G, right, over the L1 signal of GPS. It's important to say that it was designed for aviation purposes, because maybe you think afterwards that the accuracy it provides maybe is not what you may further need for other applications, but it provides the accuracy it provides because it was designed for aviation, and aviation required approximately around 1 meter, 95% percentile of accuracy. But as is there and is a free public European service, the political, let's say, mandate is that if it's there and it's public, and even though it was built for aviation, let's try to use it for multitude of other ground applications. So EGNOS is there, it's free, try to use it. And to provide a bit more, S.Cilla, as it's a service provided by Europe, is not a unique one, right? It's part of a set of systems, of a concept, so-called vast satellite-based augmentation system, that are deployed in different geopolitical areas of the world. And in this picture, you can see that this already was in the United States, GAGAN in India, that was recently became operational, EMSOS in Japan, and in the near future will appear SDCM in Russia. And in brief, EGNOS is there, it's working, but it also has a future that will start, we consider approximately from 2023 onwards, where EGNOS will augment also Galileo and will broadcast dual frequency corrections, so users will have higher accuracy available for free in Europe. In brief, EGNOS system, how it works. We have the GPS, the core constellation, the GPS one. There are a number of stations, so-called RIMS, Ranging and Integrity Monitoring Stations, deployed all over the world. There are approximately 39, mainly placed in Europe, that gather these GPS data that afterwards are sent to 2 master mission constant centers, where all this information, the GPS data, is measured, gathered, and used to compute the corrections that afterwards sent to the applicant stations, which finally feed the geostationary satellites. So in this schematic diagram, you can more or less have an idea how EGNOS works. And this happens second after second. In brief, to explain how we are organized, and trying not to provide so many details. My colleagues from GSA are the ones belonging to this first box in the upper left side of the screen, as they are the ones in the agency in charge of the program exploitation. They are the managers of this public European service. This public European service was designed by European Space Agency, who at the end had to organize the industrial consortium to deploy it, to develop it, which in this case was developed and deployed by Thales Alenia Space. So ESSP as a service provider has on one hand to meet customer expectations, to meet GSA expectations and rules, and on the other side, we have to receive the product, the service itself, the system itself from industry to operate it and maintain it and operate it basically. This is on one side. On the other side, we are, as I mentioned at the beginning, EGNOS was designed for aviation, and it's being used for safety of life applications in the flight. We also have European Agency of the Safety, European Aviation Safety Agency, as an entity that supervises our job, because we are providing a service for aviation. And finally, our main role is also to interact with users, and this is how you have to understand this webinar we are having with you. You are the users, you are the final customers of this public free European service, and we are there to bring that gap, if you want, from the system and the service, and try to make it more accessible and more easy to find information and support to final users. So in case you enter into, and we really recommend you do so, you enter into the EGNOS user support website, you will find that we speak about EGNOS services. And the message to provide in this slide is when you enter in this website and you see 3 different services, that you do not think that there are different signals broadcast from the space. Signal is unique, right? But the services, what we call open and safety of life, just have sense in the sense that depending on the equipment the user has in its hands, right? We have either open service where you use EGNOS, but if there is any error or the information it provides or the location you obtain with using EGNOS through the open service, through any equipment, you cannot complain. It's like GPS, you use it and there you go. You cannot complain if it works or if it does not work. But something completely different happens if you are using it by means of a cockpit. If you are using when you are flying or landing, that's a safety critical application in aviation, then of course not all equipments are available to be placed on board of an aircraft. Only the certified ones are the ones that can make this operation. And in this sense, only those users equipped with such type of equipment are experiencing safety of life service, because in that case, European Union has liabilities behind that in case EGNOS provides misleading information when an aircraft is providing or is landing. And finally, not linked to signaling in space, but to internet, it's also possible to access to all information EGNOS has in its system by an internet through the EGNOS Data Access Service, so-called EDAS. It has nothing to do, as I mentioned, with the signal in space. It's a different way to obtain information and gather information from the system. The signal itself, but with a different protocol, but measurements gathered by the different stations. So what can you expect from EGNOS? I have the brief on how it works, how we organize, what's the role of USSB, and now we are getting into facts. What can you obtain and where can you obtain accuracy from EGNOS? So in this slide, you can see what is the area, right, geographical area where you can expect that EGNOS provides enhanced accuracy, enhanced from GPS. So as you can see, it covers mainly all Europe and the north part of Africa. It covers, and what can I expect? What can be expected? There are a number of stations placed there from Berlin, Alberg, and Malaga, so different points in different latitudes of European latitudes. So measuring the error that you obtain using EGNOS and computing it as a 95% percentile, you can see that the accuracy it provides is really nice in the sense that it's superior one, right? And if you click in the link provided there in these monthly reports, you can find the performances this public free service provides month after month. On this slide, you can have a more let's say day-to-day graphic or day-to-day plots where you can experience what means EGNOS. This is a plot where you can see the north and the east error. That is, we've placed an equipment on a known position, and so we are computing the position solution. And as we know where we are, we can estimate the error, or we can compute the error. So in this graph, you can see in green what is the error distribution when a user uses just GPS, and the blue dots are the error distribution when a user uses both GPS plus the free EGNOS corrections. So the error is obviously lower and not so much dispersed. So this is what means using EGNOS and improve accuracy over GPS. Just a brief slide to let you know about this EGNOS Data Access Service that is accessing all the data that are flowing through the internet in the system. So you can get EGNOS, GPS, and GLONASS data through the internet. You can also get the GNSS and RTK corrections in the surrounding of the stations, right? Only in the surrounding of the stations. And as I mentioned, there is not a dense network of stations to cover Europe. These stations were placed to meet a different purpose of having a dense net of networks. But as they are there, they are public, so why not using it as a source of differential and RTK corrections? And in brief, you can obtain from EDAS 4 different types of data: observation and navigation data collected by the entire network, the SPAS or the messages broadcasted by the very geostationary satellites, RTK messages, and differential corrections. So for 3 and 4, it only makes sense if you are very close to any of the stations where the stations deployed in the ground infrastructure of EGNOS. So next point is to show you the benefits for mapping and for GIS. As you have been listening to me since I started, I keep on saying that it's a free of charge service. So this is a very good point for EGNOS. The satellite is provided by satellite and by this geostationary satellite. So therefore, there's no need of having internet access, no SIM card, no radio link, no base station. That in some cases this is helpful. And another very good thing of EGNOS is that you use it by means, or you see this service by means of the equipment. The male part of professional mapping devices are EGNOS enabled. The only thing that needs to be done is to activate the option in order to use it. So entering more details, so now we see that to use EGNOS, we need EGNOS enabled devices. We wanted to give you a hint of what is the market status in relation with EGNOS-enabled devices. So we've seen that there is a substantial growth of the GNSS mapping and surveying markets in the past, and it's also assumed to be, or that everything sets the way for this trend to be maintained. The estimation today is that 87% of GNSS receiver is EGNOS enabled, and I place here the graphs, very nice graphs, available in the GNSS market report that Alina has presented you before. And in brief, the different categories that you can find of equipment you can find there are those that need to be fed with external antenna, those so-called pole, handheld devices, tablets, and also Bluetooth-based equipments that can be handled and managed by our phones, for instance. But well, once you have your EGNOS-enabled device, is not all you need to use EGNOS. The next thing and most important thing you need to do is to configure it. So for configuring and really using EGNOS, the first thing, as I mentioned, you need to do is to check that the device is EGNOS enabled and then activate as well. So how to do this activation of EGNOS? So the first step, set the current EGNOS satellites. Today we are broadcasting the corrections using PRN 120 and 123. Obviously, EGNOS is a live service, is a live system, and from time to time, geostationary satellites need to be replaced or need to be repaired, or for any reason, or the contract needs to be changed, or the payload needs to be readjusted, and from time to time, the payload needs to change. And for that, my suggestion is that you connect to the EGNOS website, where it is always mentioned which are the PRNs that are currently operational and broadcasting corrections. So you have the latest information and configure correctly those broadcasting satellites in your device. And more practically speaking, so the three things you need to have close to your hands in order to configure EGNOS in your device is, first of all, have your product equipment data shield manual, as you will have there the specification to check if it's EGNOS enabled. know where you can find assistance from your manufacturer or dealer, because they know obviously every device has its own specificities. And of course, you have the EGNOS user support, where you can write at this direction, and on that direction, ESSP, as being now the one supporting EGNOS users, we will be pleased to help you all we can in order for you to use EGNOS. We are entering now into the applications and success stories. So you have concrete examples where you can infer the situations in which EGNOS can make sense or can be used successfully. So globally, we can say that there are a number of areas or market segments or sub-market segments, depending on how you want to call them, where EGNOS makes sense. Basically, management of natural areas, forests, parks, wind farms, utility networks, water, gas pipelines, electricity, telecommunications, inventory and control of assets in open areas, in brief, urban furniture, traffic signs, and so and so. So the message here, as you can see, I go back to the previous slide to explain it a bit more. What have in common all those areas? Management of natural areas, utility networks, and assets in open areas. The first thing is that we are in open areas, right? There are no obstruction from near buildings, so we are now in deep valleys. We are not in cities. We are in areas where maybe they are far away from big urban areas where there are not so many communication networks. There is no GPRS coverage. There is no maybe public RTK networks. So you're a bit maybe isolated, right, from the communication point of view. And third of all, maybe you need to locate great amount of points, as is the case of utility networks or assets, right? Imagine that you want to have or update the positions of water pipeline, and you need to know where are the different valves. Maybe there are hundreds of thousands of points where you need to know where they are. And if you have to perform a very precise position of such points, you will take ages, because RTK needs to convert, you need to really set up the equipment, you need to perform a lot of tasks before obtaining the position. But with EGNOS, it's more simple. It's not so accurate. That's the price you have to pay for that. It's just sub-meter accuracy. But maybe in those occasions, it's fair enough. And you are quick, you're fast, and you can do, let's say, a job that otherwise, with a higher positioning service, it will take you ages. So examples or more applications in mapping is taking samples in field campaigns, and we've seen that can be of interest for environmental or for agents that need to know what happened in a given area and which were the area that was affected by, imagine, some oil spilling or whatever. Biologists that need to take samples to know how some plants or trees evolve, and archaeologists, we've seen that's also used for that purposes. Also for determination of perimeters and areas as municipality borders, green cadastre, construction, dumping site, but always for urban planning and construction, always in those situations when sub-meter accuracy is needed. And to be practical, we also included some real cases, some success stories of people or companies that use EGNOS to make a number of tasks. And we thought it was interesting to show this to you, because you could really more easily identify situations where you could extrapolate to your day-to-day experience. So first success story was done by Geogramma. It's a company that's it's a topography company, right? And they had the task to map all the kilometer stones that were placed through all Spain. And in Spain, there are public roads. There are 200,000 kilometers of public roads. So it was something like, the project was location of 200,000 points. So why they use EGNOS was the question when we found they use it. Why use it? So of course, because they have better accuracy for free, they have wide coverage, right? They could use EGNOS from Canary Islands to Pyrenees. The equipment that they have to install on board of the car they use to go through all the geography was very simple and low cost. They had the information as they were driving, right? As I mentioned, you use this EGNOS, you obtain the position, and you have it. You do not need to post-process anything in the office, and the service was stable and continuous. So the information, if you want to read more and find more about this story, is in the link if you follow it. Another story was from company in charge of forestry maintenance, and they were not only maintaining forestry but also some elements as banks or fountains that were in that forest. I needed to perform an inventory, and once again the amount of points they have to inventory was so huge, and there were areas where there was poor GPS coverage, that they decided to use EGNOS because it was the better solution for them. Once again, because it was free, improved GPS positioning for free. The time needed for taking those great number of measurements was much lower. They could use it because there was the coverage was there, and the equipment, as you can see, the guy there was just kept in their hands, and it was simple, and there was no station and no complicating, let's say, the operation in field. And as in the other success story, if you want to read more, you can click the link available there. And the last success story we're going to show you. Yes, sorry, there is another one. My apologies. There are four. Is another company that's in charge of maintaining the water network in an area located near Sevilla in Spain. And as you can see, once again, the same mantra: open areas, no obstruction, high amount of points. In this case, was all the elements of the water network, and they are considering the use of EGNOS because it's going to improve for free GPS. So for them, the more accurate they have the information, for them translating it into their GIS representing the water pipeline for maintenance, the better. They don't have to pay for EGNOS because, as mentioned, it's free. The number of points they have to locate is so high that they cannot think on more sophisticated and more accurate position, but that requires more time. And they always have coverage and equipment that they have to acquire or rent for providing the operator is light and simple. And last but not least, sorry, that was the success story I forgot initially, is that Port of Barcelona, the Harbours Authority, used EGNOS for performing or knowing the coastline monitoring, and also for bathymetries far away from the coast. It's true that for near the coast they need higher accuracy. It's a must for them, but for areas far away from the port where they own RTK station does not provide enough coverage, they are using EGNOS. And they were very happy because they could see with their own eyes that if they were using just GPS, the error they were obtaining was 3.1 meters, but when they used EGNOS, the accuracy was much better. And in this case, it was not. It was once again open areas. One of the benefits was that it was free, that it was simple and low-cost equipment. And here the point is that they cannot always have in their own station RTK coverage. So whenever RTK, for any reason, does not cover a full area, we see that surveyors and mappers really use EGNOS. And now we have explained you what's the basic of the architecture, what EGNOS provides, what are the benefits, the devices, and success stories where you can, that I hope that inspire you to to make use of EGNOS in similar situations or similar ones. So now the point is that the message we want to give you is that you're not alone. There is an EGNOS user support site. It's a free public service, but there is a team of people really available to support you. And I'm going to switch to the web page. So to perform a live demo, sorry. So I'm in the EGNOS user support website, you can see there. And there are a number of sections, but I would like to highlight for what I think is the most important part of this website, as I mentioned, is that we are always telling you which are the active geostationary satellites that are broadcasting the signal. So please always have a look in this website whenever you want to use EGNOS, to be sure that there is no outage, that the signal is there, and that at least you have the tools to know what is happening with EGNOS. In the right-hand side panel, you can see also that we forecast, if we know there is a planned signal outage, you can know it in advance, right? It will appear in that calendar in red, or in yellow if we think that for any reason there is any risk in having an outage. And in brief, my recommendation is that, of course, devote all the time you want to navigate through it, but if you want some recommendations, have a look on news, because here we always try to provide information about success stories, use cases, or events where EGNOS will be present. So you are, let's say, a bit tuned within the EGNOS world. I also recommend you to have a look to the EGNOS Bulletin. That's little magazine published every quarter, where there are lots of, let's say, the voice in this magazine is given to users. So sorry, I have to go backwards because with the panel I cannot see it now. Where different users have the voice and speak about EGNOS experience. So you can see here it's an interview with Machinery Guide. It's for farming, but it's always keeping the eye on users and information about services. Another recommendation would be that you go to Resources and Tools section, where in guidance material we are placing practical information on how to configure equipment, and briefly we will also we will update this section with upcoming information to inform you how to test or how to verify that you are really using EGNOS. This in a glimpse. And finally, last but not least, you can always have a look on what are the performances being provided by EGNOS in real time. Right. I go back to the presentation because I think it's just 1 minute left for me. It has been recently developed an EGNOS application that is available both on Android and iOS. You have there the links where you can download the application, so you can have all the information of the EGNOS user support website in your mobile phone. So I really encourage you to use this application. And in the near future, we're going to upgrade. I mean, this EGNOS user support website is always in evolution, and we are upgrading the information. So more information will be provided there, as the EGNOS data access coverage maps and the verification guidelines I mentioned before. And so I think I'm just done. My counter already give the sound that I consumed the 30 minutes just now, and I think I give the floor back to Saulius to start the questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Sophia. You made very well. So just in time and in content. So I'm very impressed of your presentation. So far, I see 2 questions have been posed. So those that like to pose an oral question, please, you can click now the hand button, and your mic will be activated. In the meanwhile, I like to read the questions that have been passed through the chat window. So the first question relates with your explanation about the accuracy of the EGNOS for mapping applications. And the question was, what do you mean, Sophia, when you said that that if you are close to the station, then the accuracy is high? So what actually is the requirement to be in a distance to the base station regarding the accuracy matters? Sophia?
Yes, sorry, I thought I have muted, but I didn't. So first thing to clarify, to answer properly this question, is to let the user making this question is that this is relevant only if you are using or you want to access EDAS, EGNOS Data Access Service, right? If you are using EDAS and you want to have GNSS or RTK corrections from the station, the R part of EGNOS system, then you need to be close to that station, as in real life when you are having an RTK station, in order to have enough performance, enough accuracy, or the suitable accuracy. So for GNSS, if you want to achieve GNSS accuracy, I mean, for GNSS, you have to be around maximum 200, 300 kilometers. And for RTK, the maximum is between 30 and 40 kilometers. So if you are close to any of the ranging and integrity monitor stations taking part of, or that are part from EGNOS, and you have an equipment that has the protocol and is compatible with the suitable protocol to access EDAS, and you are close to that station, you can obtain RTK and GNSS. But the order of magnitude is around 30, 50 kilometers for RTK and 200, 300 kilometers for GNSS. Hope to have helped the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, this was useful, and I think the question was responded.
Yes, I see the second question. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the second question by Ro actually is your all examples are mentioned about the Spain. So is there any specific reason why Spain is so advanced in EGNOS?
It's a very relevant and nice question. I'm happy that someone made this question. Well, the EGNOS Center, the one devoted to support users, is based in Madrid. Indeed, we are very close to Madrid Airport. And for us, it's, let's say, easier and, above all, less expensive to find practical examples in our near, let's say, in our near area. For finding an example in maybe in France or in Italy, we need to go there. And as this is a free service that does not require any user to log or to leave any record of who is using this service, we are performing the other way around. We have to go to the outside world and try to find particular examples of concrete success stories, and then investigate a bit why they're using EGNOS to share it with other users. So it's basically a matter of being more not so much expensive. It's just a matter of having making it practical. It will be much more expensive in time and budget to go and start searching in different countries than in Spain. The good thing is that, being in Europe, we are all countries connected, and the probability, and it happened in different situations, that all of the companies we place there are in contact with our European companies. And then once we have a starting point, we start to, let's say, collaborate with other ones. And we are now in the moment of starting to gather more feedback from other European countries. That's the good point of being in Europe. We are all connected.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe, Sophia, this is Reinhard talking. I can compliment to this indeed. We noticed while we were flipping through the presentation that these are all Spanish success stories. We could have mentioned and added other stories from various countries, and I can assure you that we do have many of these available. For this, just as an inspiration, we have many of these success stories coming from our H2020 project portfolio that is on our website, on our homepage. And if you flip through, you will see many other examples where EGNOS is adding value to various types of users.
Okay, thank you. So then I'd like to read the third question. The question was again to Sophia. Will the quality be monitored by the ground reference center in the Nordvik?
Well, the GRC, as the name indicates, is Galileo Reference Center. So Galileo is Galileo and EGNOS is EGNOS. So for the moment being, the checks and the processing of the data to be sure that we are providing a good service is being done in the EGNOS Center. And maybe in a future when, as I mentioned, maybe it was the third slide from 2023 when EGNOS augments Galileo, right? That's both European programs are, let's say, merged because EGNOS V3 will augment GPS and Galileo. Let's say it's a good question to think who will perform that. But for the moment being, JRC is testing, let's say, monitoring Galileo, and the EGNOS service center is the one performing this activity now in Spain, Madrid.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, are you getting the GNSS RTK correction from EDAS by NT-IP protocol?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay. Then again, the next question upcoming, are there any plans to densify the network of permanent stations to improve accuracy to users?
No, the answer for this question is no. And I go back to the very first slide I presented. Let me go back. The very beginning is because, as I mentioned, even though this is a free public European service that everybody can use, we cannot forget that it was designed for aviation purposes, and it meets a specification for aviation users. So as it is designed now with the current station density, it's fine. So there is no plan to make it wider or more dense station to improve the corrections.
Okay, thank you. Then the next one, why OpenService doesn't provide corrections for GLONASS satellites like EDAS does?
Right, I think this is, as far as I know, I think it's a political decision in the sense that there are only 2 constellations that can be augmented. And in Europe, it has been decided that if 2 constellations have to be augmented, one will be for sure GPS and the other one will be Galileo. So the question for that is simple. It's geopolitics.
So, Sophia, I will compliment that one. You have to look at the historical perspective a bit. EGNOS was starting to provide open service in 2009. You can imagine that from providing a service towards the decision to implement and build such a system, there's quite some time running. And it was back in the days when GPS was basically the only working constellation, and not all of the facts were known about the future developments of other constellations, including Galileo. Otherwise, we would have a Galileo augmentation by now today. So there's also a historical perspective to this.
Yeah, sure. And it was a moment where GLONASS constellation in the early 2000s, 2002, 3, 4, that was not, let's say, healthy enough. So it's yeah, a lot of facts have decided finally to take this decision.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Then the short question: do you have any users in North Africa?
I think we have users in North Africa, but I cannot show any evidence. As I mentioned, it's a free service. You just open or switch on your equipment and you start receiving the signal if your equipment is EGNOS enabled. You do not leave any record of if you're connected using or not using. So I'm sure there are users, but I cannot give you any evidence. We will have to go to North Africa to find evidences. I'm sorry for that.
Okay, thank you. And then I think the last question is: will EDAS and TRIP service support HTTP-based communication?
Reinhard, so would you like to answer these, or you prefer?
Well, you're free to answer to that question. It's one of our topics that we had together on the table, and indeed, as we are gathering user requirements, this was one of the most urgent ones that we have put on our list. And I remember that this will be live or is live already. Please compliment to that, Sophia.
Mm-hmm. Yes, basically, that's it. So any other question?
No, I don't see any other further question, and also I don't see any raised hand. Also we are just in time of closing the webinar. I think the webinar was very interesting, informative, and thank you very much for all presenters, as well as thanks a lot to the audience that actively participated and posed a number of questions. If you have more questions to the presenters, you are free to contact me or any of the presenter through the EuroGeographics website or GSA website or other communication channels. So we'll try to share the questions amongst us. And as I said, we will continue to brief mapping authorities and the users in positional community about the further developments, and this is the first webinar organized in collaboration with the GSA, and it will be the following up one most probably in August, September. So we'll clarify the date to you. Also, if anyone like to be following the information of the EuroGeographics positioning knowledge exchange network, please type an email to me, and I could inscribe you to the Basecamp where we share the different kind of information and use it as a forum for future announcement about the events and also communication amongst the experts. By this word, I thank you a lot for all, and as I said, the webinar is recorded. The records will become available to all of you. So and as well as the presentation will become available to all presenters, all attendees. Sorry. So thank you very much and have a nice day. I'm closing the webinar.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the attendees. Thank you, Saulius.